Alright everybody, I just wanted to say hello. Um, this is Gator Bro coming in for the first video ever. Welcome everybody, right? I didn't want to necessarily do my first video this way, but I felt it was sort of important to get ahead of the season, right? And have a video for the very first game. But just in general, I'm a huge Gator fan. I've lived in America almost all my life, and I just really love American football, specifically Gator football, right? So, um, let's get started, right? So, what I want to do with this channel is just create a space for all things Gators and all things Bro, right? So, here we go, right? Let's just jump right in. We're about to play Utah, meaning Florida's about to play Utah, right? Like, you can already see my bias coming out. Can I just say, first of all, it is so great to have week one, right? Like, I've been sitting here all summer waiting to get over what happened last year, and I am a huge Dan Mullen fan, don't get me wrong. I wish it had worked out better for him, but my God, it did not, did it? So, I'm totally on board. I'm all aboard the Billy Napier train, and I really want to see what's going to happen this year. So, um, with that out the way, let's just start with looking at what week one looks like, right? So, my God, Utah, Pac-12 champions last year, and that sounds very impressive, and I have a lot of respect for them. They basically look like the exact blueprint that we are trying to copy when we bring in Billy Napier, right? I kind of feel like, and I actually believe I heard Paul Feinbob say this last year, right? Like, he was saying something along the lines of, you either got to like play with like the over athleticism of Georgia, or you have to like come around and like have the discipline and the unique disciplineness of Utah. And you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments about this, but I think that's what he said. It was another team that was known for discipline like Utah is, maybe, if I'm wrong. But I'm telling you right now, like, the thing is, I remember everybody saying you got to be one or the other, and we've finally come to a point where Florida Swagger is trying, at least, to meet the discipline of this Utah team, right? So, hopefully they've done a lot of work in the off season that I haven't seen. I'm just hoping that this works out, because this Utah team is great. They were Pac-12 champions, and they're bringing back most of their team. Now, there's a lot of talk about how the Pac-12 can stack up, and any Pac-12 champion will lose to a bottom tier SEC team, and I understand that. And for the most part, I plan to talk a lot of smack on this channel, right? I am 100% a fan. I am not an analyst. I'm not trying to say that I am an analyst, but I do have to admit there's probably some fire behind the smoke of how great Utah is, because they do work hard, and the man has been there. Whittingham, like their head coach, he's been there since Urban Meyer left, right? If I'm not mistaken, he was the defensive coordinator for Urban Meyer, which means that he, obviously he's earned the respect of his state and of his administration, which should mean something to the rest of us, right? Because these people get paid a lot of money to decide who gets to run the team. You know what I mean? So I just want to make sure that I don't come, because listen, I'm going to come from this from a position where Florida is great because I love Florida and I'm a Gator fan through and through. It's the reason I love American football. It's 100% the reason that I'm making this channel. It's because I love the Gators. But I want to come through with a good understanding of how good our opponents are and a level of respect for everyone else, so that the things that I say, even if I try to be funny, they make sense, right? So I want to start with saying Utah is great, okay? In fact, I honestly believe that the current version of Utah is our ultimate goal as Florida Gators, right? When you look at what Billy Napier wants to build, he wants to build a tough team that's physical at the line of scrimmage and on both sides of the line of scrimmage, to be honest, but specifically on offense, right? You want to create a big physical team that just leans on someone and then like just runs it down your throat and then uses the fear of our running game in order to create some over-the-top passes off a play action or something like that, right? Which is something that has been missing, right? Because we had a lot of flair and finesse, which was great when it worked, you know. I'm not going to hide the fact that I was a big Dan Mullen fan, but at the same time, when it didn't work, it really didn't work, right? So I think there's a lot of things to look forward to with this new administration, right? And circling back to what I said before, I lost my train of thought, right? I really feel like we're trying to recreate what Utah has created, and it's really exciting to see us test ourselves against this version of the offense and maybe even the defense that we're trying to copy, right? I don't want to say copy them specifically, but it's the same style we're looking for, right? Now, that being said, I know Utah is great, and there's a lot of talk about whether or not their schedule last year was strong enough. You know, they did lose 4 games, and maybe they didn't lose them against the same caliber of opponents as like an SEC team would face. But I do think that you know, they did prove themselves. However, I feel like Florida has an advantage in that while Utah's defense is stout, and especially once they add you know, Diabonte from the University of Florida from last year, which is amazing to me. His very first game is actually going to be against his old team, which is just, you know, funny enough to say, right? We've got such a stacked running back core right now here at the University of Florida, right? I'm not going to rattle off statistics like every other channel does, because I'm really just a fan trying to talk shite, right? So the thing is, you know, we've got 4 people on our team that could be a starter at any SEC school in the country, right? It lights out. Our first 4 running backs could be a starter anywhere, right? So immediately when you hear that Billy Napier last year ran 55% of the plays when he was at Louisiana, right? So everyone goes, oh, that's a very run-heavy thing. Yes, but right now we have a running back core that can go 60%, 65%. Listen, mate, I'll tell you right now, we could go 65% running plays and we would be successful because we've got studs in every position. First string, second string, third string, fourth string, right? We've got 4 people that would be starters in any school in the SEC, and as we all know, the SEC is the only conference that matters. Ha ha ha, right? So here's the thing. I really do believe that we have the talent at the running back position to establish the run and get some good over-the-top throws no matter who the quarterback is. Now, why do I say no matter who the quarterback is, right? That's because our starting quarterback is Anthony Richardson. Now, I love Anthony Richardson. I truly love Anthony Richardson. You know, he's got a ton of intangibles. He's amazing in the huddle, from what I understand from the people that I've talked to. But more than that, you know, this is a guy who dedicates his life. He's not that old, don't remember, don't forget, I should say, right? Like, he's not that old, but from a very young age, he's dedicated himself. He recognized that there was a way to use his athleticism for other things, and he's dedicated himself to causes and charities in the local community for in a way that like nobody that I personally know has ever done, right? So I'm really high on this guy, and I really hope that he succeeds in the level that people want him to like succeed on. You know, you hear people saying, you know, he's Cam Newton and he's going to be a top 10 draft pick, but I mean, I don't know. I think maybe next year, right? Like, I don't know if that's like Gator blasphemous at this point, right? To say that maybe he needs a second year as a starter before he's a Heisman champion, and you know he goes to the national championships and he goes and he's a top 5 recruit in the or draft pick, I should say, in the NFL. Sorry, I don't watch the NFL, so I might say the terminology wrong. Personally, once you make $1 million, I'm just not interested in what you have to do or say. But in general, though, in his limited performance, right, he's only thrown 66 passes. Well, I think he's got like 66 completions in his entire career, right? And that's because he's silly and he keeps hurting himself, right? Like, he got really hurt in high school, and then he came along and he came out in against USF, I believe it was, right? And he ran too fast without warming up. I mean, you know you're a freaking stud when you run too fast without warming up. And that's your ultimate demise, right? Like, he got so fast that he hurt himself because he didn't stretch first. I mean, sure, good on you, buddy, but, you know, you gotta think about that kind of stuff, I should say. Hopefully we can bleep that out. Anyway, the thing is, though, he also got hurt dancing in a store. Or no, in a hotel. He was like dancing in a hotel, right? And he was always doing his backflips and stuff. And I read the article this week that said that he takes his health very seriously now, and no more backflips pre-game and no more dancing in hotels. I just hope that he really takes it seriously, you know, and he takes an approach with more slides, more running out. Like, it's really fun to hurdle over somebody, right? And it's cool. You can show off that you're that athletic when you're the backup. But if you're not the backup and everybody's depending on you, remember, the backup just had surgery on his friggin' hand, right? So we gotta know that this guy is ready to go for 4 weeks, not for 2. Right, like it was great last year when he would come in, but he would get hurt. You know what I mean? And when you're prone to that kind of thing, it creates a little bit of uncertainty. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, I'm really high on this guy, and I really don't want to like downplay his athleticism, but it worries me that he's so uncertain in certain situations because, yes, he's very talented, but he throws a lot of interceptions, and he also just gets hurt every time you touch him. And that bothers me because, you know, I mean, everybody, at least in the media, seems to think he's the next Tim Tebow, the next savior, the next Cam Newton. And I don't want our entire season to rest on his ability to not get hurt for the 17,000th time, if that makes sense, right? Now, that being said, love this guy, and I really hope that he has a breakout season, right? Because nobody deserves it the way that he does. Now, moving on, the next thing that a lot of people are talking about is sort of the Gainesville environment, right? Is Utah prepared to play in our environment? And I gotta say, at first, I was arrogant about this. I was 100% full on ESPN, BS like, oh, you don't have a chance, you don't know what it's like to like sweat. You know what I mean? But I looked this up because, shout out to Josh Prey. He's got his joke about how all you're known for is having snow in the summer on your mountains. You know what I mean? And I was like, they got no chance. But I looked this up, right? So tomorrow night, during the game, at 7 o'clock in Gainesville, it's 80 degrees with an 82% humidity and an 86%, a feels like of 86, so an 86 heat index, right? It depends where you're from. Like where I'm from, we say heat index, but some places say it feels like, right? So, but in Salt Lake City, you got a 99 degrees with a 99 degrees heat index, right? And a 10% humidity. So as far as heat, it's not so bad. It's not really as much of a difference as people are making out. And that's at 7 o'clock when the game starts. So let me look a couple hours later. So 2 hours later at 9 o'clock, when we're somewhere between the third and fourth quarter, right? You're looking at a 76 degrees in Gainesville with a 93% humidity, which do not underlook that. All right, like coming from where I'm from, going to Gainesville for the first time, trying to go for a run with an 80% humidity, forget 93%. I felt like I was underwater. I felt like I was scuba diving with a snorkel. It was not fun, I'll tell you that. But the feels like 81, right? But up in Salt Lake City, right, you got an 89 degree temperature with a 15% humidity and an 89 feels like, right? So basically what we're looking at is that it might feel a little warmer than we thought in Utah, which is not something that most of us here in Gainesville are used to hearing, right? But I do think that the equalizer that you just can't measure is the humidity, because I'm telling you, when you run a lap and you feel like you're breathing water, it is freaking crazy. I'm telling you, there's nothing that can prepare you for that. Okay, I'm not saying that it will not be an effect, but I am saying it's not going to be as big of an effect as most of us meaning Gator fans hope for, because clearly these folks are used to a level of heat that we just do not associate with Utah, right? And I think that in large part is due to ignorance, right? Like if you're from Florida, we're one of the most populous states, right? Like we don't really know a whole lot about like some of the western states, and I think we were just assuming that they've never been in hot weather before, and I really hope that doesn't come back to bite us, to be honest. But as a counterpoint to that, the environment is twofold. Yes, there's the heat, yes, there's the humidity, but I don't know if there's anyone in the Pac-12 who gives half a crap about football as much as the University of Florida. We are the Gators, alright? We are the Swamp. And I'll tell you right now that they have never tried to play in any atmosphere like they're going to see tomorrow night. Tomorrow night they are going to be badgered by that crowd. I know that they've sold a lot of tickets, and this is very important to them because they're top 10 for the first and only time, right? But I'm telling you right now, I watched it. I watched Joe Burrow throw his first 2 interceptions of his friggin' career in that swamp, and I'll tell you right now, the guy standing in front of me that day literally started the day saying, just so you know, when we beat you, can you be hospitable? Because it's just a game, right? By the third quarter, he was tucking his tail out the stadium, is what was happening. And I was literally true to my word, trying to help people not be rude to him, because he was sitting with the Florida fans and he was being nice, right? I got nothing against him, but it was just a little bit of a sweet moment, right? When I got to say, goodbye, hope you don't hold this against us, right? Because they were supposed to be perfect. Now, of course, the next year Joe Burrow had an amazing season, so I'm not putting him down as a player, but when did he first have his biggest mistakes? It was right here in the swamp. That's what it was. So just so this video doesn't go on for too long, because I know I've already gone on way too long, I just want to go ahead and get into the meat of this and say my prediction. Not that you care what my prediction is, but I got a channel now, apparently, so let's just say what I think, I guess, right? I think that Florida pulls this out. Now, I'm very, very biased, because I love the Florida Gators, and this is the reason that I love American football. I love the Florida Gators, and I will do anything for it, right? Like, I love the Florida Gators. But more than that, I truly believe that when these two teams meet tomorrow night, the Gators are going to come out on top. And it's not because Utah is overrated. It's not because Utah is weak. I think it's because Florida is strong and Florida is underrated, right? I think if you look at the talent level, right, I've looked at 3 or 4 different sites, and I'm not going to cite them all. But here's the thing. Every channel on here, they cite the same statistics, and I'm not trying to be a statistic channel. I just want to be a fan channel, you know what I mean? But most of the sites will cite Florida as being a heavier level of talent. But more than that, I think they're bigger, they're stronger on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And I think that even if Utah is so disciplined that they pose us a terrible challenge, I think that we're so big and so strong that we can just lean on them. And lean on them to the point that they get frustrated and they make mistakes, right? And I think that that is a key to what Billy Napier needs to expose, right? We've got 4 running backs, and again, I've said this before, we've got 4 running backs that could be starters in any school in the SEC. Like, Anthony Richardson can be a star. He can be the next Cam Newton, but I don't think he needs to. I think if Anthony Richardson gets hurt in week 3 and Jack Miller comes in, I feel like we can still find ourselves in this situation where these running backs in a proper rotation can come through and establish the run on a good 50 to 60% of the plays, to a point where some over-the-top play action is a gimme, right? It's a gimme because we've got the talent there. Like, I don't even think we need to run Richardson. I'm glad we get to, but I don't even think we need to, because if we can establish a good running rotation, we've got everything we need. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to say that Florida has this in the bag, right? I'm picking us to win this game, not just because I'm a fan, but because I really do believe that between the environment and the physicality of the game, that we've got everything we need to pull this out. But that being said, I think it's going to be a very close game, and I'm going to pick Florida to win by 3 points. I'm not going to say something silly like 30 to 27 or 21 to 18 or anything like that. I'm just going to say I think we win by 3 points. So hopefully I'm right, and If I'm wrong, hopefully it's because we win by more points. So goodbye to everybody out there. I really hope that you enjoyed this analysis. I want to do a lot more of this stuff in the future. Who knows where this channel will go. I just in general love the Gators. I love everything bro and everything Gators. So I want to end every episode by saying, as always, bro Gators.